Thank you everybody for joining us. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Peter Pilarski. I'm with CIPR Communications. Today we're pretty excited to bring this webinar to you. Before I get into the session and introducing our guest speakers today, I wanted to just tell you a little bit about who I am, who we are, how we all work together with these fine folks over here, and then I'll let them take it away. Again, my name is Peter Pilarski. I'm Vice President with CIPR Communications. My background is really in public relations and advocacy and government relations. So I started my career here in Calgary, Alberta, in the Alberta legislature, writing speeches for politicians. So that was a fun job with a lot of exciting things that were happening there. And then really moved on to become a political campaigner. So I really cut my teeth in the political campaigning world, where I learned a lot about public relations, government relations, and actually digital marketing, which fits nicely into that world as well. My wife, Christina, who runs this business with me at CIPR Communications, we actually met on the political trail about 11 years ago. And I've had some really good success running very high-level political campaigns here for politicians in our province. So again, learned a lot about public relations, government relations, and digital marketing along the way. We both had excellent careers as lobbyists and communicators, and we decided to quit those jobs and do the crazy thing of starting our own businesses about 6 years ago. Christina went first, quit her job at the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers to go full-time at CIPR. Really focused on public relations initially. And then I quit about a year later and joined her, and we've been sort of at it full-time for about 5 years. It's been a heck of a journey, and along that journey, we've evolved our business really from strictly a PR agency to a PR agency that has a strong digital focus as well. You know, we basically really consider ourselves a strategy-first agency. Full service marketing and communications. Really what we do is we design campaigns to help manage reputations of companies and generate leads, which really kind of led us to this session. So first of all, I'll say our primary focuses are in tourism and cannabis here in Canada. That's my wife, Christina, worked for the Minister of Tourism for several years and got a good sense of that industry and well, who doesn't love tourism? I know we do, and we love traveling, and we love nice places. So we decided to go all in on tourism, and I personally like cannabis a lot. So when that industry started to unfold here in Canada, I decided to dig into that one as well. But we do have experience also working in the energy sector. I have an extensive construction sector background, and we've done quite a bit of work in the financial services industries as well in the past. So while we are focused on a couple of verticals, we are sort of able to work in a number of different sectors, and we have in the past fairly well. So bringing it to today's session, really, this session today is really sort of personal for me, because at the end of the day, I run an agency that's a B2B focused agency in terms of selling, or I'm the sales guy that sells our services to other businesses. And so I met Shawn through our relationship at WSI, which we've been part of for the last 18 months. Just for everybody's background, WSI is a global digital marketing network of basically almost like a franchise network of global digital marketing agencies. We share resources, best practices, learnings, and have a whole bunch of suppliers and vendors that we work with. Two of which are the fine gentlemen that are on your screen here, Shawn Goldsmith and Richard Fallah. So I met Shawn in Cancun back in about, I think, November or so last year. And started talking about you know, lead generation for B2B companies, specifically my own needs. I wanted to grow our own agency, so we started working with Shawn, I think, early January, really the program that we put together with Shawn focused on building leads for us in the tourism space was just incredible. Actually incredible to the point that we had to sort of pause it for a bit, because I frankly had more leads that I can handle in a day. And so that got us talking and thinking about how we can really add some other components to what we were doing to add a level of sophistication, so that the leads that I wasn't able to sort of get to every day, we had a bit of a nurturing campaign that we can sort of put those leads on, keep them warm, keep them interested, keep them engaged. And that's really where Richard from Vbout came into play. So really, if you take kind of the program that we built here at CIPR Communications, which was a fairly intensive B2B lead generation campaign through LinkedIn using Shawn and his group at Markerie, and then adding now a component of marketing automation and sophistication using or partnering with Richard Fallah at Vbout. We now have what I think is a very robust program that is setting us up amazingly for some incredible B2B growth going forward, which is what we're super excited to share with you guys today. So without too much further ado, all I will say is that if you're interested in talking to me about how you can incorporate some of the learnings from today into your business, we will be sharing a calendar link, which you can right through. We'll share it sort of throughout the session and at the end as well. So I believe we are starting with Mr. Shawn Goldsmith, who I will let him introduce himself because I cannot do justice to his amazing career. So Shawn, please go ahead.
Sure. And I could share my screen through here, right?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So Peter, I know you got cut off. You have a link to where we can book you, or if anybody is interested in booking you, it's going to be in the chat, right?
Yes. Kaylin will share it in the chat, or I'll share it in the chat just shortly here.
Okay, great. And I know you're doing some amazing in the industries you're targeting. So I highly encourage anybody who's looking for a solid strategy from people who have done it and are actively doing it and working with those industries that have been impacted and, kind of trying to find a pivot. Highly encourage you to book a 15-minute call with Peter and his crew. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, well said. And just on my end, you guys could just see it's a cover slide, right? It says Markerie.
Good to go, Shawn. We see it.
Perfect. Well, Peter, thanks for having us here today. So my name is Shawn Goldsmith. I'm the founder of Markerie. And like Peter said, we started working in the tourism, industry. And we'll get into it, but I really love what Peter said. He's not just a digital marketer. There's a lot of us that do digital marketing. Rich, Peter, myself, Christina, we're all digital marketers. But, he has a very specific niche in tourism and in cannabis. And, while he might have other customers, that's who he caters to. That's what he knows. For me specifically, I will work a lot with franchise companies. So it's really good to know, like, where you have, like, a specific niche, and we'll get to that later. So, Markerie, if you think about it, every marketing campaign really starts and ends with three things. Having a very clearly defined persona. So with Peter, it's tourism or, cannabis. The specific pain points in those industries. So, for example, when we were doing our campaign, we spoke specifically about what do you do during the shoulder seasons, right? Activity's low. What do you do if you're a business, right? And specifically on the persona end, you might, for some of those on the line, you might be a tour operator, which is very different than a destination marketing organization. So you can't just chalk up tourism to one persona. You have to subdivide it and be very granular. And the pain points are very granular. And the purpose of your communication is the solution to those pain points. So that's what we do at Markerie. We help you define those three things, and we help you execute it. And that's what Peter and our team here were able to execute. Let's see. So this is just an example. So this particular customer, he was very, very focused on the wine industry, and he was able to close a deal specifically with a very large winery for over $5,000 a month. So he knew what he wanted. He wrote very specific messages. So instead of just saying, hey, I'm trying to help with digital marketing, he was very focused on helping wineries with their direct-to-consumer wine stores. Because if you're a winery, and I'm going into a lot of detail because this is the detail you should have with your persona. If some of you on the line might already know your persona, some of you might have an idea, but you should have like the persona, the pain point, and the purpose lined out. If that's anything you can get away from my part of the presentation, that should be it. So the persona was winery owners. The pain point was that they're losing a lot of money to distributors. We have to give them a cut, and then the restaurant takes a cut. And then after that, specifically, you know, what can he help them with? So he was really expert at doing or creating digital wine stores so that people could purchase online. So the majority of the wineries were purchasing online. And by the way, I see a lot of people writing. I don't know if those are questions or whatnot, but I can't see it right now. So if there are questions, just let me know and I'll address them. So just
okay, Shawn, that was just me putting another link into the chat.
Oh, gotcha. So, you know, quickly about us. So we have coaches all over the world in our company. So we really spend a lot of time to help each client with not only getting the leads, but how to respond to them. So it's a learning process on how to respond to leads. And again, just quickly overviewing this. So, you know, I created this with a sales and a marketing background. And the unique twist I have is I really love military history, as you can probably see from my gladiator helmet. So any strategy, you need to define first, and then the tactics are later. So if you think of military history, Hannibal, you all have heard of Hannibal in some way. He was really, really good. He won every battle, but he could never win the war against Rome because he never had a strategy to take over Rome. He always won the tactical battles. So really today, what we want to define here is creating a strategy first, right? Like not just, I want to do Facebook ads. I want to do, you know, LinkedIn messaging. I want to do an email campaign. What's your strategy, right? Which is defined by your persona, your pain points, and your purpose, you know, to help alleviate the pain points. Once that's defined, and that could take a day, it could take a month. It could be an arduous process. Then you could initiate tactics. And we're going to, you know, Rich and I are going to show some different tactics that you could define. But, you know, I highly recommend, if you haven't worked with Peter already, he's really expert at helping you define that specific strategy. So if you don't really know your strategy, you know, I recommend you book some time with Peter to define that. So how do you build a strategic, I call it a strategic persona plan, right? You got to figure out who you want to focus on. Well, you know, it could be, and we go into more detail later. It could be by geo. It could be by specific parts of their profile. It could be by job titles. I'll give you an example. We're working on a campaign in the tutoring industry right now. And you would think, who needs tutors? You know, all types of parents all over the United States, right? Well, we said we need to get very specific. So who's in the most pain right now? Who has the most difficulty managing their children from home? So, right, exactly. And that's a persona we defined. So we thought of multiple personas, but we came up with two that actually resonated well. One were people in the medical field who are on the front lines, right? And the funny thing is we didn't have it all right. So we started and we said, look, we actually want to test three personas. We're going to have the medical field. We're going to have HR and like people in charge of organizations that manage employee benefits. And then we're going to have employees themselves. And we even had a fourth one, which was like principals and guidance counselors. And they all had different pain points. The guidance counselors, what are they going to do with the kids, you know, that are doing the remote learning? It's all new. The parents at home, they might not work from home usually. How do they balance that when childcare is closed? The people that are on the front lines, I mean, you could just imagine the difficulties they're going through. So all potential personas with potential pain points. We ended up finding out the best two personas were the medical field and the people working from home that were like senior level directors or higher. And that we were able to define that from testing, from making a hypothesis on the persona and validating it. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, before we go into that, I just want to give you a teaser. If you think just buying in mails like on the right is the right way to do it, number one, you don't have any validation. So I want to just jump into like a tactic. Like this is a tactic, right? That's the wrong way to do it. Two, if you look at it, nothing against Jason, I should probably block it out. I just copied and pasted something earlier that came to me. It's very general. It's not specific to a vertical. Sorry, it's not specific to my persona. It's not specific to a pain point. It's not a solution I'm really interested, right? And there's not even a commonality, at least on a personal level, where like maybe they went to school with me or something. I have no idea, right? We're here. This is someone we worked with. He was specifically going after breweries. I guess one thing I like is a lot of wine and beer for some reason. Seems to end up in those projects. Not cannabis yet. I'm open to it. And he's writing specifically to winery owners that he could help them. I'm sorry, brewery owners, that he could help them similar to Peter's campaign when it's slow at the breweries, but that's a specific persona, the brewery owner, and it's a specific pain point. And it's not in an in-mail format where it's like, hey, I'm trying to sell you something. It's much more laid back and a message once someone accepted. So here's an actual example from Peter's campaign. So you could see who are we focused on. In this example, it was the DMO, so Destination Marketing Organizations in Western Canada. And what are they specifically helping with? They're identifying, engaging local advocates on the value of tourism, right? And they're not, they're happy to share what they're learning. They're not trying to book you right away. They're not trying to sell you a product. It's very specific and it's very open, right? If you're interested, you respond. If you're not, you don't. So a few things going on here. One, we A/B tested messages because we could take educated guess or make a hypothesis, but we really don't know. So when you're trying to validate the correct persona, and you might have the right persona, you also have to validate the pain point. So we believed, like just taking a step back, Christina worked with the tourism as the Alberta Minister of Tourism. She has a deep background in tourism. A lot of Peter and Christina's clients are in the tourism industry, DMO and tour operators. And this is what they thought is the pain point, right? So you could see, even though we've tried different, messages, the one on the top outperformed the one on the bottom by a value of like 2x, which is crucial. So we decided to stop message B and go with A. And at some point, we probably created a C message to validate against the winner. So you always want to continually be testing. Rich might even touch on it, even your website and landing page. And that's something, Peter and Rich could help you more with. That's more of their purview. You never want to have a constant website. If you have a website that doesn't have some form of heat mapping or pointing where people are, going through the site, or any variation on the call to action, the form, even the graphics, you're not testing. You should always be in testing mode. Once you start testing, that's when you start losing. So just quickly through this, once you figure out the persona and the pain point with the winery guy, he has his cover photo is Napa Valley. He talks specifically about direct-to-consumer sales on his LinkedIn title. Everything from the persona to the pain point and the messaging, it got to be in your messages. It got to be on your LinkedIn profile. It got to be on the content you share, your email drips, your website. It all has to be uniform. Again, like you might have clients. We all have clients that aren't in our target persona, right? So if I'm going fishing and I want to catch striped bass, it's okay if I get a bluefish or something else for those of you in the Northeast. But the thing is, at least I'm focused. I have the right rigs. I have the right, my boat's going the right speed. The rigs are right. The line is correct. So I have a much better chance and probability of hooking the right catch. Sorry. So once you're launched or you're about to be launched, you want to have very specific market segmentation. So on LinkedIn, there's a lot of ways to do that. We use LinkedIn on the majority of our campaigns, but there's some third parties we use. Sometimes we'll go to specific like microsites or communities where the right persona is. So if it's a tech community, sometimes, we do some messaging on AngelList. There's some other sites where if it's a, different persona, we could be there. But the main things are you have to get very specific. So where's their geography? Are there specific things that they're interested in? So for example, with the tutoring example, it's actually a great one. We found out a lot of the people we were messaging were too old. So their kids were too grown up for tutoring, right? They're already at the end of high school or college. Or they were too young and virtual tutoring wasn't a good option. So the demographics of how old they were specific to work experience was extremely important because the bulk of the leads were missing that sweet spot. And then once we honed in on that sweet spot of 10 to 20 years of work experience, we were able to pinpoint the right age. So you want to get very, very specific with your persona in the beginning. Now, it might not be 100% right. You might have to validate it. Like we said, we weren't sure on the right persona. But over time, you're going to start getting more granular. And what that does is it reduces the cost per lead, the cost per meeting, and the cost per closure. Because you're being very accurate with your ad spend or whatever your marketing dollars are based on. So, you need the persona, the pain point, and your purpose or your solution to that pain point. But you need to also, during that time, be testing and learning. So over time, your persona is getting more and more and more detailed. It's like writing a novel. Like, I think these are the 2 or 3 best personas. And then on day 3, I learned this. So I'm going to add this character trait. On day 5, I learned this. I had a meeting with someone. I learned this, right? Like, I learned specifically during the shoulder seasons, tour operators have X, Y, and Z pain points. And I'm going to add that to the persona, right? So you're always developing and growing the persona and revising the messaging. And then what we do, and we work with Vbout on this, we put all the leads into Vbout. So it's a CRM, so you're not like, going crazy managing your LinkedIn and email. You actually have time to see where deals are progressing. So you could see the ones on the left need responding to. And Peter, like, literally was glued to his chair just trying to keep up. And then you have meetings scheduled and you have calls completed. So you want to always, I'm switching gears a little bit, so I'm wearing my sales hat. You're trying to progress deals from the left to the right. So you want to try to get them to meet with you and get them to a proposal potentially. But that's not always the best. It's not always going to happen. So I think Salesforce has a statistic that 2% of your database at any time is ready to purchase. So you want to continually be nurturing them, which is something Rich is very expert on, so that when they are ready, not when you dictate, but when they dictate, hey, I need help now, right? So the doctor on the front line might not be ready now, but in a month or 2, they might say, you know what, I really do need assistance. I'm completely overwhelmed and need help. Let them decide when they're ready. So think of the first part of everything I'm talking about is generating leads. A lot of them, they'll have some low-hanging fruit. So in Peter's campaign, for example, a lot of people wanted to meet with him right away. But also a lot of people said, hey, this is very interesting. I'm not ready right now. I don't have the budget. It's not the right time. I haven't thought about marketing. So you don't throw them in the garbage. You keep them in your community. So you're building a community of a specific persona. For me, it's franchising, right? I teach franchising at a school. I'm on a franchise education board. Franchising is my thing. So I stay in touch with a lot of people that are franchisees or franchisors or suppliers working with franchising. And when they're ready to work with us in some capacity, they know I'm there. They know that's my field, right? So a lot of the things Rich is going to talk about deals with the nurture process. And then just a little more clarity before I give it to Rich here. So you want to have, actually the first lesson I ever learned in marketing was, even if you had a great campaign and you close deals, if you can't show it statistically and you don't have data to prove your hypothesis, it's garbage, especially if you work in a large organization, because you have to show the progress to people. So with our customers, we're able to show actual progression. And what we're able to do is, with these statistics, we're able to diagnose issues on how to optimize the campaign and where it's struggling. So for example, in this specific campaign, we see that our conversion rate is 15%. So if we invite 100 people on LinkedIn, 15 of them are accepting the connection request, right? That's about average. To give you an idea, Peter's was at like 30 or 35%. So that was above average, way above average. You could see the response rates. And then you could see the amount of meetings that happen, right? So you want to diagnose, like in this campaign, I actually say it's pretty normal. The conversion rates are about right. I would say the thank you messages are a little bit low on the conversion, but he's steadily getting meetings. And for this client, he has a very high value deal size. So 1 meeting a week is a lot for him, because he's selling a very high valued product. For someone selling something of a lower dollar amount, we'd probably want more meetings, and we would have to tweak, like a lot of levers. How can we get more connection requests? Because if we double the people who accept, we're going to probably double the amount of people who are responding, and that's going to double the meetings, etc. Or maybe I want to try to tweak the thank you messages in the first messages they're getting on LinkedIn or email, because that might be the lever where we've done everything we can to get people to accept, but maybe the lever is getting a higher response rate. Or maybe the person that's responding, our client, they might need a little bit of coaching on resonating with that person and getting the direct pain point. So on our end, on our first grasp at dealing with someone that we just reached out to, for the most part in a kind of cold manner, they don't really know us. It's not like they've been in our community for several years. There's different areas of where you can improve. So I think my last main takeaway before giving it to Rich is, when you try to add those layers to your persona, your pain point, and your messaging, or I call it the purpose, you want to have data to help you make those decisions. Making them on a gut feeling, isn't the best. So I'm going to give it back to Rich, so he could, setting the stage for Rich and he's the CEO of Vbout. So not only is he telling you strategy, he's actually built and developed a lot of the tools he's going to show you over almost like an 8-year period. Once you have a lot of these leads, and let's say 10% of them or 5%, or even the number I gave you, 2% are ready to meet, what do you do with the other 98% or the other 90%, right? You don't want to throw them in the garbage. You got to do something with them. And the longer you do nothing with them, they depreciate. It's kind of like you have a BMW in 2010 convertible, even without a lot of miles, it's not worth that much now, even compared to a lower model now. So, Rich, I'm going to give it to you so you could walk these good people through what you do.
And I'm just going to jump in there really quickly, Shawn, and just sort of reiterate a couple points you made, because I think they're worth reiterating before I pass it off to you, Richard. Number one, obviously, again, we call ourselves a strategy first agency. And I think the number one point here is it's got to be strategy first. You wouldn't believe how many people come to me saying, hey, I need this or I need that, and right into the tactics. And, first question is why? What are you trying to accomplish?
Right.
Is that the right tactic? Do you even know about tactics that are available or strategies that are available? So strategy first is just critical, Shawn. So thank you for hammering that point home. I love your, be specific, your persona, your pain points, and your purpose. What I learned in our campaign working with Markerie is exactly what he pointed out. I mean, first of all, we knew our target audience well. We already knew the reason I think we had success to the extent that we did is because we sort of, we were engaged with our target audience for quite a long time ahead of time. So we sort of knew what those pain points were, and coincidentally, we actually started the campaign and were speaking at a BC tourism industry conference on the same message. So it was sort of aligned with already a direction we were going, but we knew that that's what the target audience was looking for. But we learned more, and we learned about things like, hey, you know what, tourism budgets started on April 1st. So that's when, tourism organizations will be ready to maybe make some moves. Unfortunately, obviously, COVID put a bit of a cramp in some plans there. But, the key thing is be specific, be targeted, keep honing in on your message, keep honing in on all of the data that you're collecting. And the more targeted you are, the better. And I think the most important point I think that you made, Shawn, that really resonated with me was when it comes to marketing and sales, and this is a sales guy speaking, it's not about me at all. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what my opinions are. It doesn't matter what I want to sell, when I want to sell it. Your target audience, your persona is there in the driver's seat. So the more you can tailor yourself to your target audience, to the people you're trying to sell to, the more successful you're going to be. So I'll just leave it with that and pass it off to Rich.
And while Rich is just setting up, just one thing, since this is a COVID-related webinar, the reason this is all super important is because if you're using the same message that you used in January or February, you're kidding yourselves. I'm not saying you have to write a whole thing like, I understand you're going through these hard times and everything like that, because that's what everyone's saying. But you have to understand, you have to, number one, tweak your messaging, but you might have to reposition your offer too. You might not have to completely change your business, but you have to tailor it to the crisis we're in now. So before doing any types of campaigns like this, and if you're going to do a strategy session, which I highly recommend with Peter, you need to not only figure out the persona and the messaging, but to the current environment.
Exactly. Right. Rich, over to you.
Awesome. This is some great points. It's all about testing, right? That's what marketers are about. And if you feel like you got all the answers, that makes you a lousy marketer. If that's why you always got to doubt everything you're doing, right, and go out and test it and test your persona and speak to people, right? Now, let me share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see it. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. There's no video or anything blocking it, right? It's the full presentation.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks again for setting the stage here. You both are amazing at what you do, and I learn a lot from you every day. I have a lot of stuff here to cover, and I'm really excited because this is really a summary of years of experience, not only building the marketing tech that we built at Vbout, but also working with clients on what works and what doesn't work. So I'm going to skip the introductions, but at least at core, what I'm going to be sharing with you today are three folds. One is, what is marketing automation? A very high level. I'm going to assume most of you already know what that is. I'm going to discuss aligning your content with the buyer stage and kind of, repeating some of the stuff you're saying here, Shawn. And finally, building winning marketing funnels, right? And I'm going to focus on B2B funnels in this case that you can deploy immediately for your business. And I do believe when you focus on 3 points, it resonates really well with the end customer. So these are the 3 points I'll be covering in the next about 20 to 25 minutes. Now, what is marketing automation? A lot of people ask this. A lot of people actually have the misconception of what marketing automation is. I'm going to tell you what it's not. It's not a pyramid scheme. It's not something that's going to be out there generating money for you. It's not this random secret society that has all the stuff figured out and they're just sitting collecting cash. That's what it is. Marketing automation is literally just turning manual work that produces results into automated processes that's going to be consistent, that's going to do a lot of the manual work that you do on a day-to-day basis to produce the best result at all times, right? That's what marketing automation is. And I always tell clients there are 2 types of automations. There are internal marketing automations, internal between you and your team. If a lead comes in and the lead is supposed to be assigned to a salesperson who is in California, how does the internal automation handle that? If a lead comes in and he answers that he has 50 to 100 employees, what do you do with that particular lead? So that's sort of internal assignment. I call it internal automation. But there's also the external, which is the front facing, the one that you send out a message to the end customer, the one that retains the customer, nurtures them, and moves them through that funnel. So these are the 2 types of automations. Very simple. It moves the tedious, repetitive work into, automated functions that you still need to monitor, but at least is more consistent and it saves time. Now, businesses ask, is it for me, right? Who can benefit from it? Now, these are some very good results from Get Response, a competitor of ours, but I love learning from my competitors. So see, these are some good charts here. If you are focused on saving time, again, coming back to repetitive work, lead generation, so you can optimize your lead gen processes, revenue, because the more leads you have, which is the core of this conversation, the more likely you close more business. And customer retention, very, very important, is retaining those clients that you have. So if you are worried about any of these and you actually have a digital presence, you need to be doing market automation. Hands down, there's no industry that cannot benefit from this. And we've worked with different clientele from the brick and mortar restaurant industry who, working with us, have generated an increase in online orders. Companies who are also brick and mortar but doing more on the amusement, I think like an internal park for kids, they grew revenue by 300%. Online cloud kitchens opened 30 kitchens in 5 months. This is staffing, online staffing. They increased the team efficiency by consolidating the tools, as well as clients who are partners of ours and agencies who are able to upsold because now they can focus on other things versus their tasks. And not only that, marketing automation lets you group things and make things more efficient so you can replicate them across campaigns, across clients a lot easier than you were doing before. So the question again, is it relevant for you? Yes, if you are focused on time saving, if you focus on lead gen, increasing your revenue and customer retention, you definitely need to look into marketing automation. Now, I know some of you guys might have more questions. So we'll leave that to the end. You can kind of put your questions inside the chat and we'll gladly answer them towards the end. I want to dive a bit into the aligning the buyer content and the buyer stage. And there's this big thing in the content marketing world where everybody gets so excited and they go out and start creating content. And some of this content is really, really good. But there's one problem in this, is that it doesn't really align with the buyer or the person, the target persona they're targeting, right? And this is where a lot of the times they sit back and they say, why this amazing piece of content is not producing result? That's because, to put out straight, nobody moves from being problem aware to making a purchase. Nobody knows, there's a problem there and I have a solution and that's the perfect solution for me. There's actually a series of things that happen, especially nowadays with the abundance of online, social media, online review channels, the social proof, again, referrals from friends and families. So people move from knowing they have a problem to making a purchase through a whole lot of research and channels and interactions and before they make a decision. So it's never this linear straight line. It's always, a bunch of touch points. And there is a great book by Eugene Schwartz called Breakthrough Advertising, which I think is a timeless piece. I advise you guys go and get the summary for it, read the book. But he just summarizes, every buyer out there or potential client from, starting from being unaware, I didn't include it here, but not knowing they have a problem, to being problem aware, they know they have a problem. Then they move to knowing there are solutions for that problem, right? Then researching these solutions and comparing them and knowing about you now. So now we moved from being unaware to knowing about you as a potential solution. Most aware, this is where there's conversation back and forth. They've already engaged you. They spoke to your sales team, and they maybe got some proposal, right? So this is kind of the progression of any buyer out there at time this piece. Now, I mentioned this is because if you're targeting people on the problem aware stage, most of the time you need to talk about the pain. So what is the pain point that you're targeting here? If you're talking to someone who just found out they have a problem, your content focus on what is that pain and how to solve it, and just be very informative on that front. If you're talking about people who know about the solution, maybe comparison charts might be more relevant. So knowing what stage the buyer is in will dictate what kind of content and the format of that content that you need to deliver to them. So having that kind of being conscious of this, and I know it sounds easy, but a lot of marketers actually skip this. And they really the content, and this is what separates the good marketer from the random marketer, is that aligning the content, the buyer stage, and the format of the content will produce the best results.
Rich, just to add and tie a lot of this together.
Sure.
So if you're generating leads, right, and it's kind of like doing tactics without strategy, you're kind of wasting your ad budget and your lead gen efforts. So creating a strategy and then aligning it with what you're doing in a marketing automation is key. Otherwise, you're just throwing your leads in the garbage, or you have a very low conversion rate because you might assume everyone's just problem aware and you're just sharing content about talking about the pain. So yeah, using Vbout, you could actually break these people in these buckets.
Awesome. Thanks, Shawn. Now I want to talk a little bit about knowing the ingredients you have. And in marketing, I think it's just like cooking, right? You go in the kitchen and you want to cook something. If you know what ingredients you have, what's your meat, what's your spice, what are your veggies, what are your herbs, you know exactly what meal to put together, right? And it's the same exact thing when it comes to putting in a marketing campaign. Now, knowing what assets or what things you can work with when it comes to marketing automation is key. And this is why, I kind of put it out there as far as the channels you can tap into. Obviously, there are the email channel, the most popular channel, actually the most conversion driving channel that you can tap into. There's SMS, browser push notifications, which is an amazing technology that's not well utilized, that asks people to communicate with them via browser. So you don't need a phone, you don't need an email. Landing pages and the forms, top of the funnel stuff. And obviously, one of the also main powerhouses is the retargeting process, that pixel that gets dropped on the landing page, and you can literally retarget people through ads, right? There are more stuff that you can do, like sending a postcard and outbound calls. But at the core of what marketing automation consists of, these are the elements that I think we'll be sharing today. The other thing that I really, really emphasize, and I share with a lot of people, is sometimes recycling is the best thing to do as a marketer, because you never want to reinvent the wheel. If you did a webinar and you know that flow works, you can always replicate that format. If you know that your hashtag funnel is working and you want to replicate it for other clients, recycling that same funnel is also working. So recycling content, taking that piece of article you put in together, breaking it down into posts, sharing it on social, doing events and webinars and things around that content, whatever it may be, recycling is very, very powerful for marketers. And then personalizing the full experience of the customer. Like, you never want to send a message without a name. You always want to include the person's name. You want to have something relevant to them. and people see through this effort, although people know it's marketing material, if they see their name in there, most likely they'll have some sort of immediate positive relationship with that piece, even if it's marketed towards them. And not putting the full name and making sure you got the right capitalization. These are some stuff that we really built tech for on Vbout. And I highly recommend you, whatever you do as far as the assets and the ingredients you put together, personalize the experience of your user. And finally, keep it simple. So don't overthink your content. The less is better. And minimum CTAs. Don't stuff your content with a lot of call to actions, because that's going to just dilute the percentages of people converting. These are some examples, and I'm only covering email and landing page elements here. And by the way, I'm going to share with you in this chat right now an amazing 30-minute presentation on everything you need to know about today's email marketing tactics, right? So I'll put that in the chat so you can access the YouTube video. And if you like it, please follow us on YouTube. I'd love to share more content with you guys. But these are the two types of emails that are out there. You can decide, for instance, if you want to do the full-blown HTML, which you see on the left, maintaining the proper ratio of text to image, having your images with proper sizing, including the person's name in there. Or you can decide to get HTML, which is the one on the right. It's still a marketing material, but it's stripped out from all the fancy stuff. It looks like it came out from an inbox. You can personalize it. And it's focused on one call to action only, which is booking me through my calendar, right? So these are some of the decisions you can take or you can make when you are creating those assets for your funnels, is how much you personalize them, what format they need to be, and how to make it as minimal as possible so people can take one action without stuffing it with links. The second thing here is the landing page elements. So a lot of people build out landing pages, an amazing technology we built on Vbout. Now, the best performing landing pages have proven to be the simplest ones. And they have these elements that I'm about to share here. This is one of the best performing pages of all times for us. We've used it for our clients as well. You can see you have a header with, main call to action and a subline. They have the social proof here. You have a form, one form. There's no other links whatsoever. So people have 50% chances of converting or 50% chance of closing the page. That's it. And the left is a short description of what they're opting in for. A lot of people will get a little bit more in depth. They add FAQs, they will add testimonials. So you can get a little bit more in depth, but I really think keeping it simple is the way to convert better on these landing pages. Okay. So these are some of the ingredients that you can work with when you're building your funnels. And I'm gonna dive in a second right now into how to build the funnels and some winning funnels for your business.
I could just jump in there, Rich, really quickly.
Sure.
I think I want to just sort of reiterate the point you made there, and this is where marketing automation actually helps a lot, is that if you're going to create a landing page or an email, you don't have to stuff it with every single thought that you have possible in that one communication, right? Marketing automation allows you to do things like then add a case study and add some social proof in further emails and further automation. So, really that's the beauty of marketing automation, is you can have sort of nice, clean pages with minimum information and then take people through a journey based on the journey that they are really taking themselves through because they're clicking on certain things and they're taking certain actions.
Exactly. And, again, people have very short attention span. You really don't want to be giving them too much content to try to consume to understand your message. People usually look for the call to action. They're looking for that visual cue to click, to do the next thing. They just have that behavior built into them. They're looking to read the headlines if you don't provide a video, if there's no imagery. So these are some of the things you need to think of, is guiding the people to the action you want them to take versus having them figure it out. And that's usability challenge that you can get better at with time. Awesome. Now let's talk a little bit about funnels. And, there's a lot of people who discuss this and they talk about processes, and Russell Brunson talks a lot about funnels. But what is a funnel? Is really that campaign idea that's going to take people to an end goal, which is going to be, purchasing a product, booking a demo, buying a book, purchasing a membership, whatever is that end goal that you're trying to get people to, right? Even this funnel, this webinar we're doing, ultimately to engage us if you need some assistance, or you want to book Peter and his crew to get pick his brain on some of the stuff you're doing or how to improve it. He's providing 15 minutes at no cost to you to book a consultation. Use that. I'm providing content and my team is available if you have any questions on building funnels. Use that. Same with Markerie. If you don't want to know how to split your personas. So we have an end goal here is for you to engage us so we can learn from you. And if you like what we do, you want to hire us, by all means. But the end goal here is you have to set that for your business. The second piece, which is the most important, is getting that traffic. Where do you get it from? Now, Markerie specializes in getting you that traffic from LinkedIn. There are some companies who specialize in sponsored ads, and they could push ads on Facebook and LinkedIn and other channels to drive you those leads. You can use your own tactics, and I have a funnel that I'm about to share, which is your own hashtag listening funnel. So you get that traffic, and now we're going to put them through a series of nurture. So is it an ebook? Is it a sample video offer? Is it a consultation? Give them that one offer so they could get invested a little bit. And as soon as they get invested in that offer, the rest is establishing some sort of a trust, getting them through a drip campaign, and so on. Now, it is an art. It's not as simple, but it's a balance between knowing your end goal, where you're getting the traffic, how to provide value to your customers. It's not about just getting them into a funnel. You're providing value, you're teaching them something, and then driving them through a process. If they have a pain, they will end up booking you. That's the really simple flow of getting from being unaware, problem aware, solution aware, to making a decision. And at the end of the day, everybody here is in the business of solving problems for clients. And that's really what a funnel is. So let's dive into the first funnel today. This is the paid ad funnel. And I would like to just briefly explain to you how these works. Here, you see my screen, right? So this is the channels where you're going to drive your traffic from. Now, because it's a paid ad, I'm just going to assume you activated any of these channels. It could be just one. By the way, YouTube is an amazing channel. You have Snapchat, which have been offering 100 gift cards or ad credits, sorry, for those who want to test out Snapchat, if that's your thing. Facebook and Instagram has been amazing to us just because they have the best algorithm. They know a lot of data. AdWords is always good, but it's expensive. LinkedIn, I'm on the fence for it. We haven't really fully tested it, but it's a good channel for a lot of people. But either way, whatever channel you deploy on the ad side of things, you're driving people to the next phase, which is providing your video teaser, or maybe, a 15-minute, a 1-minute intro to a bigger chunk of the video. So for instance, I can have a 30-minute video, which I shared with you here, about email marketing, what you need to know. And it's not just a piece of content that I put together just like this. I actually spent years and years working on email marketing with clients. I've spoken to the experts, and I've compiled this very solid 30-minute presentation. Now, to access that, I can gate it with a 1-minute call or video talking about what I'm going to share in that video, and a form to gate that content. As soon as people land on this page, I'm going to drop a retargeting pixel, because I already paid, $15 for a click to get on this page. I want to be able to retarget you with an ad so I can have my cost per acquisition further down the road a lot better. Okay, now it's not that I'm going to be bombarding you with ads. It's just that I need to get that bucket of traffic that I paid for ready for me to retarget them later with maybe a little bit more a different offer than a random or the top of the funnel or the ads on the other side. Now, as soon as they fill out the form, we send them to the full video. They can watch it. There's always a CTA that we advise you include on these pages. So this is the full video page. And one technology that we have on Vbout, which I really, really love, is the browser notification technology. So we can, on Vbout, activate the browser push prompt on the thank you page. Now, from here, you can give your clients option, or whoever viewed the video, to book you on a consultation, right? And on the other side of things, in the background, you can channel them through an automation that's going to send them a thank you. Maybe a few days later, if no booking was made, you can actually book them and have a case study. If you have an SDR and people can do calls to kind of see how you can help these and get some feedback, you can actually do that. Finally, you can drop in your retargeting, or you can have a call or consultation booked. Okay. Now, again, these are just suggestions. Every funnel might look different than another. You can really get creative with the material that you have here. So to put it in perspective, I've deployed my retargeting. That's one of the ingredients I have. I've deployed browser push notifications, emails, landing pages. And these are ingredients of the campaign or the offer that I have here. How are we doing on times, by the way?
We got about
120.
10 minutes, yeah.
All right, cool. So this is the inventory of what you can do. And I'm going to share this presentation with you guys so you can take these with you and you can really use them however you like. Let me just go to the next slide. All right, the second one is the webinar funnel. This one is very popular. By you driving traffic from whatever source of, LinkedIn events, you have your own audience, you can email them an invite, you drive them to the page, very simple to what Peter's page included, to actually attend the webinar. And that includes a video, ideally a video if you can, of you speaking, nothing fancy, no fancy productions. And you can drop a retargeting as well for people who are interested. You have a teaser and a registration to the thank you page. Again, the thank you is always underutilized, guys. I really highly emphasize the importance of utilizing the thank you page in order for you to channel more opt-ins, put a retargeting, and even a more call to action. Now, once people go through this and they attend the webinar, right, which is like we're doing today, you can have call to actions to book an appointment like we're doing with Peter, if you're interested in Peter's and the value he can provide. You can even get the recording because we're going to send you a recording afterwards. So we have this entire drip campaign in the background that's happening right here. And after that, we can send the drip campaign also with more content that we've put together. And this is where the recycling takes place, is you taking that old content you've built, the other webinars and the amazing speakers you brought on board, create these drip funnels for new registrants so they can consume that same content that you've put together before. Okay. Again, that's another type of funnel that's powerful and it's just proven to work time and time over. And this is the inventory of what you need to get that funnel together. LinkedIn B2B funnel. This is probably your favorite here, Shawn. But generally speaking, you need a LinkedIn navigator, spend that 80 or 100 bucks, get those searches to find your persona and initiate those connection requests. So if people accept the connection, you can start your messaging on LinkedIn so you can drip them those messages. If they do not accept the connection and you still want to be persistent because it's a really good target, you can use some tools like DuckSoup or Rocket Reach or Lead Miner, a few other these tools to kind of get the email and try to push them to a nurture campaign. Now, mind you, I'm not advocating that you guys should be spamming people. I know it's B2B, so it's volume play. If you're going to do 5,000 crappy leads, it's not the same as doing, 100 very solid, well leads. And I don't think that's spamming people necessarily if you have a value you're providing. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to sell and solve solutions. So I don't see there's harm given, your geography and the spam compliance in your country, if you can utilize the email channel or not. Now, from the LinkedIn messages, you can drive people to a page where they have value video. You can drive them to webinar, whatever that may be. And ultimately drive them to book consultation with you if that's the end goal through the sales navigator. And again, you can get really creative with these funnels. They don't have to be in that order, but we know working with many clients that this is a very good format to actually deploy. I think I got one more funnel to share with you guys, which is the social listening. And this is really, really, really cool because every channel out there have a very powerful search criteria. So I'll give you this, for example, on LinkedIn. If I go to my LinkedIn right now, let me discard here. And I'll show you how the LinkedIn search works. You can literally just search marketing, hashtag. And then you can follow anything on LinkedIn that includes that hashtags. And they will notify you when there are new conversations that are relevant to you. Now, how powerful is that, right? This is because once you get a conversation going on LinkedIn with that hashtag, you can literally jump in and comment and provide value on that particular piece of content. Now, if you do the search marketing without the hashtag, LinkedIn, they provide more tools. You know, what are you looking for when it comes to that particular keyword? Now, similarly with Facebook have an amazing search. As soon as you put in something, let's say food delivery, look at all their filters. They can provide search by geolocation. You can do it friends and friends of friends.
Rich, we're just seeing your slide screen. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing a different screen there that you're on.
Oops, I'm sorry. All right, screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Yeah, so technically speaking here, you can search events, you can search posts, you can search people. Sorry guys, but hacking the search, or not hacking, but utilizing the search of these vendors to the utmost ability is really what I advise you to do. Is don't be shy to utilize hashtag search, follow these searches, and then ultimately try to provide some value. So some winning tactics here, so I can kind of conclude this session. You can set your hashtags you want to follow on each of the channels and provide 50 solid comments on this on every day. You find somebody who's talking about marketing automation or lead generation or whatever it may be the topic you're following. You put in or provide comments. And I know Gary Vee has an amazing piece on this. He calls it, I think, the 75 cents strategy, which he leaves 75 comments every day, or his team does it. And then he drives from that comment over to a page which has a call to action. It could be an article you've posted. It could be a video that you've compiled, where you can drop in a retargeting and a browser push opt-in and email opt-in. From there, you can build your own funnel, whether it is driving people to action on your calendar, whether it is driving them to maybe a different drip if they opt into your email. So you can get really sophisticated here to drive a little bit more, you know, of that kind of put your own hint to it and just be creative. Right, so just to summarize real quick, to open the floor for questions. Funnels are not going to be out there doing work for you. Market automation is not a society, secret society that all generating money, and it's not that difficult thing to at the same time. It's just learning the ingredients, having strategy in mind, an end goal, and you can literally just logically piece out these puzzles and then go in and use systems like Vbout to implement them end to end. And we can help you on that front. I have an amazing team who can assist on the marketing tech implementation side. So without, I think this is all from my side. I'm happy to take any questions if you have more time and stay a few extra minutes actually after the hour.
Perfect. So I'm going to jump in there. If anybody has any questions, please just either raise your hand or make a comment in the chat box, and we'll make sure that we'll elevate you so that you can ask your question. While we're waiting for that, if really I want to just summarize, you know, number one, Rich, I heard, you know, obviously lead gen, especially in the B2B side, is a numbers game. And that's really where Shawn comes in and generating those numbers. And then really, there's not really a straight line between, you know, the problem aware and the person buying a solution. So really, marketing automation comes in to fill in the gaps, to take people through a journey. You know, and there is a stat, and I sorry, I don't have the exact numbers on me, but there is a stat out there that, you know, there's a direct correlation between the amount of time that people spend engaging with your content as a brand and the amount of money they're going to spend. And that's especially important for the B2B space, where often the ticket for items is a little bit higher. So, you know, you want them engaging with your content. You want them getting comfortable with your content, whatever format that is. Personalization is huge. I think we all know that. If you get an email in your inbox that has your name on it, obviously it's going to get your attention over an email that doesn't. And simple performs better than complicated. And I think that's a really key message. You know, keep it simple. This sounds complicated. I know it does. And I will say that, you know, I get a lot of people that come to me and say, you know, I spent money on advertising and it didn't work. Well, that's a little too simple.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a balance between, you know, you need to spend money on generating leads. You need to nurture needs. You need a system, and you need processes. You need to take people through a funnel and through a process. in order to close, in order to get them down to a place where they're ready to make a purchase. And that's really where Vbout comes in. So thanks a lot. I don't really see any questions coming in. So it sounds like you guys just had an incredibly clear presentation and everybody's 100% on side. So I will just say a couple closing comments is, again, CIPR Communications is a strategy first agency. My process from a sales perspective is if you book an appointment with me for 15 minutes, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, learn about you, learn about what you're trying to solve and your problem. That's where it starts. I'm going to spend some time online researching your business, your website, your online presence, understanding kind of where we're starting from. And I will come to you with some proposed solutions. And some of those solutions may include Rich from Vbout and Shawn from Goldsmith, Shawn from Markerie, but they may not, because these solutions aren't necessarily the right solutions for everyone. So as a full service agency, we aren't prescriptive to these are the solutions that we have in our agency. Therefore, they are the only solutions that'll work for you. I don't buy into that. As a WSI agency, we have a whole host of solutions available for our clients. And we really aim to bring the right solution to the right client to meet their needs. So that's the end of my little sales message. If there's no other questions, then I guess we're ready to close it out.
Awesome. Yeah. And thanks, Peter. I think you said it, consultative selling the right solution for the client, because nobody wants to sell things to clients that they're not going to use. That's the ultimate failing strategy, getting them locked into contract. But yeah. I think overall you summarized well. And I think we have somebody who's raised their hand. Her name is Nish Naidu. I'm not sure if
you can elevate Nish, that'd be great.
Kaylin, I don't know if I have the capability to do it, but.
I'm not entirely sure how to, but if you drop your question in the chat, I can read it out.
Nish, okay.
Let's see if I can figure this out from my end here. Sorry, Christina, my wife, is normally the expert.
Yeah, no worries. Nish, if you can hear us, maybe you can drop in the questions. And
no, so Nish, you should be good to go here.
Okay, perfect.
Just unmute, just so you know. Yeah, okay, good.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Hey, so thanks for giving that presentation, all three of you. Thanks for putting it on, Peter. And appreciate Vbout explaining their platform. I was just diving into the website while you guys were chatting. You guys have something really cool going on here. I work in a pretty niche market in the Alberta oil and gas industry. And obviously right now with everything going on, low commodity, COVID, we're pretty constrained in terms of everything. And quote unquote, we can't even buy a job right now. And I guess we've tried to dabble and we've kind of piecemeal different aspects of online marketing, but we're always in the reactive mode. And I guess, you guys mentioned at the beginning, you got to know your why and you got to have a sound strategy. But in an industry like ours, where you got day-to-day work and then you're projecting these big projects that are happening in probably a year, and then our sales guys are always trying to their cold call or keep their touches, because we're traditionally a PR-based company. And I guess it's just new for salespeople and companies in our industry to use online. Right now, obviously, everyone's forced to, and something that we see in the tech industries is you can set up a webinar like this, whereas for companies like us, it's hard to get the technology and the people and everyone to buy in and to simply have a presentation on our services and equipment. And I know that that's just a component in a marketing funnel, but I guess where would a company start? Would it be creating all the content in the beginning, having the different captures of offers, of a webinar, of video? It's also new. So I guess my question is very broad in the sense of like, how do you create a funnel in an industry like ours where you don't necessarily know if it's going to work or not, because everything's been traditionally based?
Maybe I'll just start with that, and I'll ask Rich and Shawn to jump in. But I think really the place to start, Nish, is executive level buy-in, and really, that starts off probably with a bit of a bit of a strategic planning session with your executives. That's not about digital. That's really about the business and its goals and its sales goals and long-term goals. That's where we start as an agency as much as possible. It's not always possible, but really getting everybody to agree on what the outcome is, what the end goal is, and then digital may be part of the solution to that end goal. Call centers might be part of the solution to that end goal. LinkedIn B2B marketing might be some of the tactics, if you will. So I think if you can get the extent to which you can get your leadership and your executive aligned on what are the big goals, the big, hairy, audacious goals, and what could be some tactics that fit into that process to achieve those goals. And then really it's a lot of education. And so, I mean, it's not an easy answer because it's not an easy problem to solve. And Christina comes from CAP and worked in TransCanada and other things. So I understand large multinational oil and gas companies that are often sort of have been doing things a certain way for a long time. But I think that, sorry, go ahead.
Our audience is, from anyone from like a project manager to a construction manager to an engineer to people who are primary contractors to subcontractors, because we're a third-party service. So our audiences, some are really techy, some are not, some are really blue-collared, and trying to know if everyone is online is, I guess, the unknown. Can we work someone through a funnel like this where they're interested in our services? Can we get them into a webinar? Can we put them through a funnel?
Yeah, and I think the answer is yes, and I'll let Rich maybe jump in a little bit, but the answer really is yes. I would say though, you need to meet every audience where they're at, right? And so again, you don't want to be speaking to maybe a construction project manager or somebody that's a field level person at an executive level in terms of solving a problem. And similarly, you don't want to be speaking to the executive, maybe that's a purchasing agent or whatever. I don't know enough about your business about some construction project management. So yes, I think you can get people into a funnel, but it needs to be the right message to the right target audience in order to engage those people.
Yeah.
Rich, Shawn, do you guys have anything to add there?
And I'm sorry, my PC just frozen. I couldn't hear part of what is your market niche?
So we're a mechanical contractor, which we've been servicing the oil and gas industry for the last 20 years, but our machine tools allow us to work in a variety of industries like mining and power gen and civil construction. We basically do maintenance services, millwright services, that heat treating it's called. And then we also sell and rent the same equipment to people who want to self-perform. So it's kind of, like I said, it's a niche kind of product service, and definitely a different, like an adoption that needs to happen in terms of people going through an online funnel versus a sales guy showing up at their office.
Right. Now you have an existing client base, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we have a pretty big client base.
Okay, a lot of companies in that particular, not in the exact segment, but in a very niche segments, they've pivoted to retention funnels for their existing clients and trying to leverage that in order for them to amplify the relationship, provide more value to them where needed, and see how they could provide longer term relationships, because it's a lot cheaper for you to probably maintain that than to acquire new ones, especially just at this stage until it's come back to motion. And again, I'm sorry because my internet broke, so I didn't hear your whole question, but I think the funnel shouldn't necessarily be acquiring a new lead, but probably retaining new leads and using that as a way to have them maybe talk to their peers and other people in the industry. The other funnel I would recommend, and I'm just saying funnel, but it's more of a process, is seeing what your competitors are doing. How creative are they getting? Are they actually deploying any tactics themselves? Have they pivoted their content themselves? And trying to learn from that, because sometimes you can literally just go at the comment section of content that your competitors have put together and just read the comment to see what people are saying about that. But that's probably a little longer conversation. And I know Peter's a lot better in strategy side of things.
Yeah.
But my 2 cents to it is just those 2 answers.
And what I will say, Nish, as well, is that we do have a couple of audits available. So, for example, a competitive analysis, and we can really kind of, tell you what your competitors are doing online as a starting point based, compared to what you're doing. And that may be a good place to start, because I think a lot of the times, assumptions are made about things. And really, what I like about digital marketing the most is it allows us to really get good data. And then base decisions on data. And so, starting with a competitor analysis, understanding what your competitors may or may not be doing online, and learning from them, and then sort of either taking what they're doing and improving on it, or saying, they're doing this over here, let's do this over here, and we'll outdo them. So, really, I think that's kind of maybe a good place to start. And then I think what Rich said is the other thing I would recommend too is, and I've been saying this to people kind of lately. Right now, during the COVID crisis, is a great time to communicate a lot to your target audience, to your current customers. Maybe put out a quick survey to your customers and ask them, hey, would you be willing to do some webinars to learn more about different services that we provide? What are the different ways that you'd like to be communicated to, right? You can put out a couple surveys that are fairly simple and cheap to do, and just get that information and learn, and then make some decisions based on what your own clients are telling you right now that they would appreciate. And that may help you to sell to your leadership some strategies that you may want to use going forward.
And so I think Peter brought up a really, really good point. So before you do anything, like you might have a good idea or hypothesis. You always want to do a current state analysis, both internal, like Rich was suggesting, and Peter, you guys were, both said it, and external. So I think looking at your current database and see who's on what contracts and where they're at, versus also competitors. Working with Peter, what Rich was alluding to, it's called funnel hacking. Like you could sign up for all their stuff. You'll see their landing pages, their funnels, their emails, stuff like that. So at least now you know what's on the market, like you know what your competitors are doing, and you know where your current clients are at. Once you have all that information, now it gives you a little bit more focus on some possibilities you didn't even know about from your competitors. And then from your clients, you're learning about pain points that might not have existed before, or things that they're doing to alleviate those pain points that you might not have done before. So I think even surveys, or even speaking to some of your current clients and just listening to their problems might help you. Just so you set a very, very clear new foundation, because none of us know what's really going on, especially in an industry like yours that's been hit very hard. So you need a very clear current state analysis. I think that's a good place to start. But I'll tell you something. I worked with someone, similar situation, and they were working with a client that does like Uber. It's like a competitor to Uber, but not like a name brand. And they were like completely decimated. And what they did is they did like an analysis like this, and they realized a large percentage of their users were elderly and in the senior division. And what they did is they pivoted to just being like Uber, like Eats types of concept, where they still had drivers, but they were delivering groceries. So they actually were able to pivot their offering for now, instead of transporting people, to just transporting groceries. And that wasn't their business like a while ago. But now that's their business, because they adapted their offering to the pain point of their customer. The seniors can't go out now, but the seniors desperately need food delivered. So they pivoted the offering. But you can't determine that until you see what other companies are doing, right? And you see what your customers are saying they need help with, which is what Peter's suggesting. And then you could get to the next level, which is, okay, who's the right persona, and what's their new pain point, and how do I pivot my messaging and product to meet that said pain point?
Mm-hmm. No, that's all really good info. Thanks, guys.
Pleasure. I think anybody has questions, you can raise your hand. I think there's a raise hand stuff here. It's funny how every platform have their own controls. And I haven't. Did you guys hear about this? There's a new service now. If you want, you can rent an animal and put the animal in the background. So you can rent a goat or sheep or a camel, and you can bring it as a background. It's a very if you want to look cool on a Zoom call, I think that's one of the ways you can do it.
So I've put my Calendly link sort of into the comments again. I don't see any other questions here, so we'll wrap it up. But please do feel free to use my Calendly link to schedule a meeting with me. I am not a hard salesperson. I promise you I will not be selling you. I care about your issues. Hey, nice dog there, Shawn.
I rented it.
That's awesome. So yeah, book some time with me. I'm happy to sort of niche specifically if you want to talk further about what we just talked about. Happy to sort of dig in, do a little bit of research for you, see how we might be able to help. And that offer's open to everybody here on this call. So thanks a lot, Rich and Shawn. Really good information. Thanks for everybody for attending.
Thank you.
It was a very useful session, and I look forward to hearing from some of you in the coming days, weeks, and months.
Awesome, Peter. I know this is a series of other webinars, so we'll keep this going and looking forward to the next content. So thanks again for hosting it, and thank you everyone for attending. Hopefully this was valuable.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Peter and Rich.
You're welcome. And sorry, before I do move on, just allow me to get one more chat here. Oh, thanks, guys. Before I do move on, I will say we do have a session on May 5th, which is next Tuesday at the same time. We're going to be diving into 7 steps on creating a digital marketing blueprint. And so a digital marketing blueprint is a very, very detailed strategy on what you need to do online to succeed. And it takes a lot of what we talked about today. Takes a lot of the guessing away and really tests a lot of analysis and sort of puts it into a framework that may or may not include B2B lead generation with Markerie or marketing automation with Vbout. It'll be really specific to your business, so you won't want to miss that session. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.